Africa Prime, brought to you by Jamison's Select Reserve.
Welcome back to Africa Prime. Elizabeth Dipuo Peters was appointed Minister of Energy in May 2009. That's Reed Post-Polokwane, before which she served for 5 years as Premier of the Northern Cape. She's an ex-member of the famous AAC Youth League and is also a founder member of the South African Youth Congress. Minister, were you always cut out to be a politician? Was politics always on your mind?
I think so. Growing up in apartheid South Africa and in environments where you realize the disparities in which you live. I would say I was born in an area called Butler Road in Kimberley in the Northern Cape, where we were cut off between the different race groups by a tar road. On the other side of the road was the colored community, and the other side of the road was the Indian community, and that is where the businesses were. And sure. We were on the other side of the road, where in fact, if you they used to say in Afrikaans, "Mense kan die pad," and I mean that type of thing. Growing up in that environment, but also I grew up in an environment where there was a neighbor of ours who was in exile, sure. And my grandmother used to tell me a lot. Like if you question something, says, "Hey, you'll end up like Butumelo Paketi."
And that became an inspiration.
It became an inspiration. I joined the Young Christian Society, and we went at times to clean the homes for the aged, just like we do with Mandela Day. And you sometimes realize that, but the home for white people, aged people, has got nurses and doctors and whatever. And the one for the African people, there's nothing, they are just there on their own, not attended to. And these things prick your mind. And I joined the youth organizations and became very active at that particular time. But the other thing that was very, I think, that spurred me on, 1976 with the uprisings in Soweto, but after that around July and August in other parts of the country, I have a mark on my leg bitten by a police dog. And I hated everything that was associated with the system. And I believed that I need to hit back for my leg, that at times, even when it pains now, I feel that it was because of that. But I also want to say that having been young in South Africa, being exposed to this, I went to study at the University of the North, became very active in Azaso at the time, and the harassment of the police, the harassment of the then so-called system just spurred you on. And one thing, I studied as a social worker, and one of the key things that made me also even more conscious of my responsibility in society was the fact that as a student social worker, we're always reminded that social worker is an agent for change.
Sure.
So if you want change, you are politic.
Yeah.
And in anything, now the other day I came across a quotation that says that love for mankind is politics in practice. And I believe that I've been trained to love mankind and therefore practice politics.
Do you have any regrets?
I don't.
At all?
Not at all. The only thing that I would say as a woman that has actually created some, I won't say is a regret. If things, when you look back, that you could have done differently, was not having an opportunity to bring up my children in a very stable family environment where they have a home. You know, my children, I moved with them all over in politics. Almost like Vuiswa Tulelo, the former Secretary General of the Youth League, was doing. They were part of the executive. 2 o'clock meetings, we have a 2-year-old in a meeting. People are talking there. She also raised her hand. She doesn't want to say, and she keeps on saying, I want to write what you are saying. She can't even write. So it's those type of things that says to me that I could have done it differently. But sure. Also being raided by the police on the day of giving birth to your child.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
For me, that is a painful thing. And I sometimes say, was that what informed me not only to have 2 children because of the difficulty I had, because both of them were born at the time of the Youth League.
Are you still angry?
I'm not angry. I am really not angry. We have a huge responsibility in this country, and that is to transform South Africa for the benefit of the people of this country. And our people, sometimes when they are impatient, I understand their impatience because they struggled for a long time. They have been subjected to the type of conditions that they live in. And today you have intergenerational type of poverty, and you find people feeling that it looks like this government is moving slowly. If I speak from the environment that I'm deployed at now, it's still painful to go into KZN or Limpopo, Eastern Cape, the informal settlements of this country, and find people without access to energy.
Particularly for you as a social
We
worker.
will be meeting on Thursday as ministers of energy from Africa. One of the key factors that we're discussing is issues of access.
Right.
It is this continent that is still seen as the dark continent. And literally so, if you look at the world at night, you see that the lights are on the ports areas because resources of the continent were extracted and taken out. So it is where the infrastructure, even for transportation, is based. So it shows you that we've got a huge responsibility. And if I speak as a social worker now in the energy space, I know that I have got the responsibility to make sure that we can improve the lives of our people. When you compare the matric results of the African child with the white children who've got access, or economically empowered people who've got access to resources, you can see the disparity.
Sure.
If you have electricity, you wake up in the morning, you switch on, you bath, everything is there, breakfast is ready.
Yeah.
If you don't have, you have to start making fire, heating the water. By the time you get to school, you are so tired, you can't even listen. And sometimes our poor children even go to school without having food.
Sure.
So it is my responsibility also as a woman to understand the pressures that other mothers have. If my child can wake up in the middle of the night and say, Mommy, I need this, and I go and open a fridge. If you look at the situation in South Africa where women are still dying because of preventable diseases, just because children or women did not have access to immunization or medication or vaccines, that needs a fridge that needs electricity. So it means I've got a responsibility for socio-economic development.
Yeah,
and I won't say I am angry.
Yeah.
I would say I am also feeling the impatience of the people. And I'm happy that the president has signed a performance agreement with us. Because you know, a performance agreement have got key performance indicators.
Yes.
And the indicators are the number of households that I connect,
Right.
the number of people I convince that because we don't have access, you need to use home solar systems, the ability to use the sun to generate power, to use wind to generate power, to use cow dung to generate power, to use human waste, less a toilet to generate gas, to be able to generate some form of fuel, to use your waste from your household to generate power. It means I have the responsibility to work with environment, to work with all other ministers to make it possible that our people should have a better life.
How far have you gone in terms of that performance agreement that you've signed with the president?
We report in terms of the clusters, and we've been able to report as we speak. The ISMO bill, which is one of the key instruments for bringing in the independent power producers, is before we are about to table it in Parliament. It has gone through Cabinet, it has gone through public hearings by members of Parliament.
Sure.
But also we have now the indicators that by 2014, 92% of South Africans must have access to electricity.
That's your target.
That's my target. But also, we have the responsibility to make sure that by 2014, we've got 1 million solar water geysers. And we are working together with my colleagues in Cabinet, Minister DPE, as well as Minister of EDD, Economic Development, to make sure that we get additional resources because there's potential for job creation also there. We're helping women to become barefoot engineers together with my colleague in women, Minister Tungwane, to say let's train our women to be installers or assemblers, installers, and operators and maintenance of the home solar systems when they are in the rural areas. So for me, this is a very exciting but challenging responsibility that gives me sleepless nights.
Minister, I've got 1 minute. The key picks for you that remain to be transcended before you leave office.
The key picks to be transcended is to make sure that I create the capacity in the department. As we speak, in my department, we've got 52% capacity. And the good thing about it is that that capacity is predominantly women. And because you see...
Do they work better?
They work better. They say if you give the task to a woman, you can then be able to get it to be done. Because we need to improve the lives of our people. The key pick that I need to transcend is to bring in independent power producers. And we have now close the procurement for the first renewable energy projects, because you remember we've got a target for 2013, at least 4% of our power from renewable energy. The other pick is just to make sure that South Africans have got security of energy supply.
Minister, I would say just to keep the lights on.
To keep the lights on, to keep the cars on the road.